Welcome to the Three Body Narrative podcast. We are your hosts, Pradyum, Aaron, and Naeem, and we're missing Naeem once again. You'll come to know about that in just a bit. But to all of our listening and viewing subscribers, I wish war upon all of you. A bit too late for that because we're already in the midst of it. But yes, we are here to review, discuss, and rate Over Your Dead Body. And that probably tells us why we're missing somebody. No, he's not. Okay, so no, he's all fine. All right, so what is the movie all about? Well, it is a dark comedy thriller that follows a deeply dysfunctional married couple, Dan and Lisa, who retreat to a remote cabin to fix their failing marriage. But the twist, each partner secretly plans to murder the other to cash in life insurance and escape mutual financial ruin. So, with that being said, we will start with our ratings for this movie. And I am going to start off first. And this is a tough one. But I think I'm going to give this movie a 1.5 out of 5. I like the premise, which was you had this sort of Mr. and Mrs. Smith type situation where, well, they weren't spies or assassins by any feat of or any stretch of the imagination. But I like the concept that we were trying to see, a couple try to one up each other. And I thought the whole movie was going to be that. But what it turned out to be was just this massive cluster F of just gore, violence, and a whole load of randomness, right? I think Jason Segel, I mean, I like the guy, but I feel like he's played the sort of neurotic character throughout. And I just felt seeing him again playing a similar type of character was all right. I wasn't a huge fan of it. I think the actress, Samara Weaving, I think is her name.
Yeah.
And so she was, I mean, I liked her, the playing her character or the foil that she played against Jason Segel's neurotic character, and I feel like that dynamic kind of worked. And I did at times feel like, yeah, tensions could come to a point where they could kind of kill each other, and I feel like each other's personalities played quite well. But I think the idea of taking away from what what this movie was essentially supposed to be and making it slightly grander with the introduction of other characters felt quite bizarre, and I just think it didn't work. Plus, some of the later stuff with Dan's father and all was just a bit too much. But I guess it depends. I guess if you're into that kind of, I would say slapstick dark. I mean, just slapstick comedy with a lot of blood and violence, then probably this is for you, but not for me. So yeah, Aaron, yeah, it's your turn.
Oh, this is a brutal one. Yeah, I think I would give it a 1 star. Uh, but in some ways, I kind of feel like maybe I'm being a little bit harsh on this one because there were certain elements that were good, like you mentioned. I think one thing which stood out for me in terms of how good these actors could be and where the movie kind of missed at using that potential was, I think, when both husband and wife were at the table and they were enacting how they were going to be like mourning when investigated and stuff. So I mean, both of them showed pretty cool range in like how they were going to be when either one of them were going to be like faced with a missing spouse kind of thing. And so I kind of felt that probably would have been nicer if you gave them that range to kind of use. Like you mentioned, I think like uh, uh, Dan's character is something that Jason probably plays every role that he gets pretty much. So that was nothing different, and it was kind of disappointing because you've seen that he is capable of doing much more if given the opportunity. So that was sad. I think the wife's character was better written because she was able to kind of display a lot more, and I think that's why probably the couple was not so kind of, it didn't give you the what is going on, or this doesn't really work sort of feeling. So I think she kind of carried pretty much most of that dynamic through the movie. Like you said, I think there was so much going on, some of it probably not necessary in the grand scheme of things. So it was quite a chaotic movie. I like the premise, like you said, but also I think this was the type of movie where you knew, okay, they're going to be some tournament which then kind of brings them together, and that would be the end of the movie. It was pretty much an open and shut case in terms of how the movie was going to end. And so, yeah, I think considering that we streamed it, I think probably doesn't leave me as disappointed as I would have been had I to go and watch this in the theater. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think this was one perfect for streaming. It's something like if you just want to blow off some steam or like get your mind off something, then this is something that probably would work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's not something that's going to kind of get the juices flowing or keep you on the edge of your seat. Yeah, there are some funny moments. There are some, I guess, weird kind of jokes which were kind of maybe R rated, which I don't know, some people may enjoy, some might just think like, why was that even there? It doesn't make sense. But yeah, it's there. So just a heads up for anyone else that is thinking of watching it. But yeah, a pretty blah movie at the end of it, I guess.
Yeah, so I think let's talk about the, I agree with one point especially, which was the fact that, the way that the movie panned out. I think by maybe the 40th minute itself, the entire premise of the husband trying to kill the wife and the wife trying to kill the husband went off the window, and it just became both of them trying to survive, you know this whatever was happening with the other characters being introduced,
Yep.
and that made the ending so much more predictable,
Yeah.
right? Because I love the setting up of it when they get to the cabin, because there's like, talks about them, one like Jason Segel, Dan talking about Lisa going hiking, Lisa talking about Dan going for hunting. And
Yeah.
even when they were in the house, like you could see that there was a missing knife, there were certain things that were, it was placed well enough to kind of keep you on the edge, and like, okay, I don't know how this is going to go, you know
Yeah.
like what's going to pan out, what's this thing. But I think like within the first half an hour itself, like Lisa foils Dan's plan, and suddenly it is like I just sat there being like, shit, we've got another like hour or so, hour and a half. I'm like, how are you going to continue this? Like this, I thought would have been like the third act. You brought it out like
Yeah.
in half an hour's time.
Yeah. And also, I felt like again another probably missed opportunity was like when they kept doing the 3 hours later or 3 days later and stuff like that way. So they show these three prison break convicts or whatever coming into the cabin. So one thing they did was that okay, they showed us how the key was shifted like from the right towards the center of the door frame. So that was cool, and it like when you look back, then you're like, ah, okay, that's why it happened. But like they showed that big guy like shoving cornflakes in his mouth, dropping it all over. And like, they could have done stuff like where they noticed these kind of things, like how the house probably there was someone that didn't clean up after themselves, where then they could have been like, have you been in the house? Or like throw us off by saying the person that Dan was talking to has already kind of set up things in the house or
Yeah.
something like that. It would have been pretty cool. So I felt like that was a missed opportunity there.
So that's exactly what I felt. I was like, whoever he's talking to, I thought like, okay, they'd gone into the house, they'd moved stuff and kept. So that's how I thought they'd planned it. But like, okay, I mean, obviously we're getting to spoiler territory, but this whole thing of
Yeah.
the three convicts, hiding in the house, and like, come on, man, like you're three convicts. So what's the worst that could have happened? You're like, you could have taken them on easily. Why hide in the attic in the first place, right? And then when you
Exactly.
eventually know that you were going to do this, I mean,
Yeah.
I know that they were planning to just slip out when I guess they didn't want to go this route until until that they shot that guy in the ass or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just felt like it was unnecessary to add these three characters. Honestly, like why not just have the entire movie be a suspense about, because I think that's the real suspense. You're on the edge of your seat wondering, okay, how is this going to pan out? Because
Yeah.
it's basically one versus the other. And maybe yes, you have the person who Dan is talking to, right? Which you
Yeah.
wouldn't know who that was and all of it. But yeah, it just felt like it was leading up to something in the first half an hour, and then suddenly it just like completely went left field and,
Yeah.
and went somewhere else. But what did you make of the convict bit? Because I think that's where the movie for me like nose dived.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I felt like that kind of depreciated the value, I guess, of the movie for me because, like, okay, obviously, before we watched the movie, we kind of knew that there is a comedic element to the movie because it has been listed as like a dark comedy and stuff like that. But I felt like the start of the movie was quite nice in the sense that you felt like okay, it's probably going to be a serious thing where with maybe a little bit of satire comedy kind of thing, and I would have loved it to be that way. I think once these three came into the picture, it became more goofbally rather than dark humor to me per se. I think the only thing that was dark maybe was the bit of goriness and again some of the inappropriate stuff that they were trying to do. That was the only thing that was dark, I would say. And so yeah, it became quite it kind of made me feel like, oh, I hope this is not another that pizza movie thing that we watched because it almost felt like it was going down that route.
Oh, that was something else. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I think here for me, like we said at the start, the setting up of it, right? Like let's come back to the start because this essentially was, and like I mentioned in the synopsis, this was essentially a movie where it was both spouses trying to kill each other. And
Yeah.
I love the fact that even though we spent only maybe 20 minutes with just them two alone, we got to see how bad the relationship was and
Yeah.
how toxic it was, right? That car ride for me was like, oh, that was so toxic and like so
Yeah.
but I love that. Like in the sense, I wish we had more of it because I felt like the way this movie should have been is like I think half of it should just been like building up to that boiling point of them like trying different
Yeah.
things and just not being able to or
Yeah. That whole sort of one upping each other would have been so much more cooler. And like you mentioned, I think anytime that it was just those two alone, like I think even later on when they're like in that closet kind of thing together, I think that dynamic kind of shone throughout the movie, and I felt like they could have just used that, and it would have made it a decent watch anyway. I think the others was okay. Probably for this particular storyline, I guess they had to go down that route, but I think in a in another this thing it could have been just those two and maybe that Henry character, and you would have been good.
yeah, yeah. So I love the part where I think he's trying to cook her steak because he thinks like that's her favorite dish.
Meal, yeah,
Yeah. And just that hint, right? Like, obviously, he knows that she's cheated on him. She
yeah,
is obviously fallen in love or like fallen out of love with him because, he's not been there. He's been kind of like lost, not sure of what his career it
yeah,
holds and stuff like that. And just been, basically depressed, right?
yeah,
So I love that aspect, and like I said, I wish we had a lot more on that because that could have been dark, right? Because you're going down themes of like, you know, I don't know. Obviously, cheating is one of them. The other one being like you being sort of depressed because neither of them have been there really for each other. You also talk about, I think she complained about not being there or not being cast in his first movie, and
Yeah,
I think there were a lot of like unsaid thoughts or
yeah,
words between the two, which could have easily really made the entire movie very uncomfortable and very like on the edge, is like who is going to snap first.
yep.
And
Uh,
or it could have been even comedic where both of them was just snapping at each other like constantly. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, the initial premise of the movie gave them so much of, options of how they wanted to kind of take it to make it something so much more better. But again, I guess maybe that's our opinion, and there'll be a few that actually enjoyed this one. But yeah, I feel like, you know if they I get it that this was meant to be a comedy, but just as an option, this could have gone like the Gone Girl sort of route, and it could have been something serious on that end, or you could have had that and add satire to it, because you have two characters that were constantly on the screen. So yeah, it was a, it started off well, and I kind of liked those two characters on their own. But yeah, I really was kind of looking forward to it the way it started, because of how they were setting up, and it showed again when they were showing some of the flashbacks or taking us to how they were setting up things. It kind of got you intrigued, and then when it didn't really come to fruition, or at least it didn't show how they attempted and failed, it was like, oh man, that I wish I had that instead.
Yeah, because I love the fact of him picking up those rocks, like Dan picking up those rocks in front of her. Like I like the fact
Yeah,
how stupid like he was in this. Like I said, this felt like a Mr. and Mrs. Smith type of situation where both of them are just idiots.
yeah,
Oh.
exactly.
And especially him, I think Dan was the bigger sort of nerve wreck
Yeah,
there, right? And he didn't know what to do because like I wouldn't go picking up rocks like that and put in a duffel bag when my wife is just standing there by the window, even if she's like lost in her play.
yeah.
Like that's not something you would.
Yeah, and the worst thing was, I mean, you had an accomplice as well. So, I mean, he could have easily got him to do it, or I'm sure that was not the only place he needed to pick up rocks from. I mean, he has planned this in advance, so why did he have to do it then? And there's so many, I guess, questions or plot holes, but again, I think it just goes back to the type of characters he has played, and you would just think like, if Marshall was trying to commit a murder, this is what he was going to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But let's talk about Henry because I think again there's a character who I think had a lot of potential in being this really bad sidekick
Yeah,
to Dan.
yeah. I mean, he could have been one of those kind of psychotic but still an idiot kind of character, which would have been so nice for them to kind of play off on,
Yeah.
because again, with the whole both of them trying to bargain with him on his cut, that was like, again, that was like so well done, where you could have had so much more of that happen, or have it play out a little later on in the whole thing. It would have been so much nicer, and I think that guy also did a good job of displaying that sort of psychotic nature, where he
Mm.
wants to be friends with Dan but is still so okay with killing someone, so that coldness was still there and stuff like that way. So yeah, I think they could have done a lot more with that character, and he'd probably have been a better, I guess, villain, if you want to put it in terms of for these two, for the couple to kind of be up against.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I was just gonna say, like, I mean, fair that, fair that both of them were trying to kill each other. But if you wanted that ending of them trying to finally figure out that you know they didn't need to kill each other. It could have gone two ways. Either you go the way that they actually did, which is they fall in love back, they fall
Yeah,
back in love with each other, right?
yeah,
And they reconcile and they decide that whatever they did in the past was wrong, all of that. Or they could have just been like, hey, we're just not meant for each other, but we don't need to kill each other,
yeah,
which I felt would have been a different, refreshing take and an ending. But like you said, I agree that you get to the point, you maybe get to like maybe the halfway point where both of them are trying to kill each other. And then you have Henry coming in, and then you have this argument where, he learns about the insurance money, right? Uh, and then it kind of then becomes you've got to now survive against Henry rather than this thing. So,
yeah. I felt like that could have been quite a nice plot where he turns on both of them, saying that now that I can kind of blackmail you because I know what both of y'all were planning to do and stuff like that. I think that would have been, I won't say a better twist because we'd probably see that coming as well, or we'd kind of get the idea of something like that happening. But I just feel like that character was a much better one to kind of have as your villain as opposed to these three that eventually kind of turn up.
yeah, and I was very like, I guess there is an element of shock factor when they actually shoot him, in the sense that for me, not so much that they shot him because I kind of expected that when they were both tussling for the gun, but
Yeah,
more of the fact that okay, now what, right?
yeah,
You both clearly know you're out there to kill each other, right?
yeah,
You've now killed someone. Now is the entire movie going to be how to cover up that murder or what? And then we have that
yeah,
entire thing of the three convicts coming in. And yeah, I don't know. Or maybe, yeah, I don't understand what was the purpose of it. It just felt like this was meant to be a short story, which they've just extended to make it a lot more.
yeah, yeah. I think it almost felt like afterwards they just didn't know how to end it. Because like for me, I would have been like, if he was mortally shot, Henry, I mean, then it would have gone down the way, like you mentioned, of trying to cover up the murder. And maybe that's how that what kind of keeps them stuck together. And it would be like, okay, we don't go back to like a couple kind of thing, but we need to stick together to keep our story straight and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or it would be like you shoot him, but he's not mortally wounded, and now it's like you need to kind of figure out how you're going to deal with him because he couldn't just out you by saying, oh, these guys shot me and stuff like that way.
Eh,
So there was so many ways that they could have just utilized Henry so much more, and I would have been happier.
yeah.
uh so yeah, and
Because
again, like I said,
I love that entire thing of Hammer Time and him just being like, I'm like, dude,
ex-
are you serious?
exactly. Yeah, and what was funnier was again when they go back to the time when they are in the fair, and he actually says hammer time before using the hammer. So you're like, okay, he is an absolute idiot. But yeah,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I think he had that element of being, because obviously he's been in prison, so he's got that bit of like, there is a bit about him where you feel a little threatened or intimidated by him, because
yeah,
especially when he was talking about the amount of money that he was going to get, which is at 50 grand or whatever, and then he's like,
yeah,
I that won't be enough, I need one more thing. And the way he was
mm,
delivering it sounded intimidating, but then he asked to just spend more time with him. I'm like,
yeah,
okay, what an idiot. Right. um
yeah.
yeah.
Even the thing where on the phone he's like, "Oh, after can we take the boat out for some fun and stuff like that?" So his character had layers and kind of so many different elements to him, which was quite cool.
Yeah. So let's get to probably the worst bit of this movie, and that's the three convicts, right?
Yeah,
And I, I don't know. So initially, I was, see, I mean, as characters, initially they felt okay, like, you were gonna get something different maybe with the three
mm,
convicts. Uh, you know, let's see how this goes, because it could, like you said, now it becomes more a survival movie than it is a, one-upping movie. And so, but it just turned really weird in that basement, like with the,
Yeah,
especially the correction officer or whatever she was, right? Like
yeah,
random stories, and it's just very, very awkward.
yeah. There was so much of unnecessary stuff there. Like, uh, they, I guess they wanted to add some depth to their character or what it was. I don't know, but like her trying to, or her being depicted as this one who loves this guy. I forget his name or his character's name, but the leader of the three or
Pete,
whatever.
I think Pete or something. I think
Yeah, I think Peter. Yeah,
Allegra is the same, because it sounds like an
yeah.
Alice.
She Allegra is the corrections officer, Pete, and then the big buff guy was Todd or something.
Yeah, Todd. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. So she trying to keep emphasizing on their love story and stuff like that. With again, they didn't really build on that or anything like that way. So it just felt like unnecessary information. Even Todd's character, I guess they wanted it to be like a comic relief thing, him
Hmm.
getting shot in the butt, and then after that, the whole thing with Dan on the at the pool table, again unnecessary. And then after being stabbed so many times, like okay, finally he's dead.
Yeah,
Till he's not dead again, and you're like why? I
yeah.
mean, you did really have to bring him back again, but
Yeah, he didn't
it
add
is what it is.
he didn't add much after he got, I mean, yes, he added the intimidation and like threatening bit. And yes, he got, I love the part where she just keeps stabbing him, and then of course he gets
Yeah,
his head smashed in at the back. But after that,
yeah,
to still be alive was like, what the hell? Like, why?
yeah, and it, like if you kind of gave him a major part after that, like okay, he comes back and actually does something. I mean, okay, maybe not kill them, but like foil some major plan or something like that would be fine. But he just came, restrained her for a little while, and then again gets his head blown off. So you're like, what was the point of bringing him back? I mean, these two could have restrained the couple anyway. So it was just a pointless kind of addition to that.
Yeah, and also the other thing that, you know I was a little irked by is, like, obviously Pete is not in love with Allegra. Like
Yeah,
there's clearly a feeling that he is using her to get out of prison, and he's used her to do that, and he's
yeah,
continuing to just keep her there. And I feel like, because of the trouble that the couple themselves are going through, I felt like they could have maybe played on that and maybe been like, because Allegra is of the opinion that Pete loves her, she loves, and it's mutual.
yeah,
I feel like they could have easily turned, like, those three with amongst each other, could have been like, hey, he's just doing this because he wanted to get out of prison and stuff like that. And none of it just happened. It just became this entire action film
yeah.
of sorts where they were just beating the shit out of everybody.
Yeah, and also like I mean, the worst thing was they kind of hinted at what you were saying, like when they were up at the attic and they were playing that game, and you could see like they were enjoying. Todd and Allegra were kind of enjoying playing the game together, while this guy was just being a stick in the mud kind of thing. So you could have been like, okay, maybe their plans get messed up because there is maybe some sort of jealousy thing or something like that way in between them, or again maybe like some one-upsmanship between Todd and Pete, like who's in charge or who wants or whose plans we go with, something of that sort. But it just felt very one-dimensional, and yeah, it didn't really do anything for me, to be honest.
Yeah. The other character that we probably have to talk about is Dan's father, Michael. And
Mm,
again, like at the start, I loved that little cameo because, I just love him telling Kevin to go get lost, essentially.
yeah,
Right. And I can see where, and I think it sets up Dan's personality and the character as well, seeing him interact with his dad, who's basically very disappointed in his son or whatever, and he's just essentially doesn't care as much.
Yeah.
And you can see how that plays into Dan's character. But the again, it just the ending of him taking the car and then that entire petrol pump scene, and I don't know
Yeah.
what they were planning to do with that, like, and him driving the car into the, I mean, obviously hitting Pete first, then
Yeah.
blowing Todd's head off, all of that shit. Like, I know he did mention that he wanted to always die in a war, all of that, but it just felt so slapstick, and it's like unnecessarily slapstick. Like, it's not even well done slapstick.
Yeah. And it also felt like he was going into a pointless situation, right? I mean, had he not had that gun next to him, like what was he going to do? It made no sense for him to be doing any of the things that he did. And like you mentioned, like his whole persona, how it changes like when he is in that car. Like okay, initially yes, he was annoyed by the music, but to have him later on like singing to that music, like man, you just killed that for me because you changed his personality completely uh halfway through. So I like it would have been cool if he remained that badass sort of character, and then I would have been like, okay, then he's going gung ho into that situation. But after you did the whole hey cupcake fill it up and all that kind of stuff, then you're like, yeah,
And also his plan is just to go to the house, who and the I think the what is it, the his next door neighbor calls him up and says that, the window's
yeah,
been smashed in or something, and there's some plants that have gone, I don't know.
out of the house or something. He says, yeah,
Yeah, so I don't know with what gusto he's gone in there, because ideally you think that he just drive there normally to
yeah,
see.
because he suspects his son, right? He says the kid or something like that way before
Yeah.
he leaves. So you're like, uh, that whole montage of him like going aggro over there was like a bit overkill. So you're like, it just didn't make sense.
Yeah. It would have been nice if he rocked up to the place normally, they kidnapped him, and then he used his maybe badassery in order to get out and do all that shit. But
Yeah.
the fact that he utilized the car to do all of that shit was just like, weird. Did you feel though at any point in that last bit where they're by the boat, when obviously Pete gets drowned, did you feel like she would just let go, and maybe that's the different take that they would have done?
Uh, I think by then I felt like it wouldn't happen. I wanted it to happen where it would be like, at least that would have been like a twist where I'd be like, huh, okay, they did something that I kind of wanted but didn't expect them to do. But I mean, they kind of showed his even before the whole wrapping the bag of stones around Pete. I think they had already shown him kind of getting entangled with the rope or his foot getting stuck in the rope, and you're like, yeah, this is going to mean something later on, which it
Yeah.
did. But yeah, I always felt like somehow they would manage to save both of them.
Mm.
It was crazy that she pulled him up, though. I was like, I don't know how that's happening. Because if
Yeah.
she was able, I mean, if she was able to do that, I'm pretty sure Pete could also have swum up
Huh,
because
but I mean, he
that,
had it stuck to his neck, and yeah. But yeah, I would have thought like what would have happened is like maybe he was drowning, should have dove into the lake and then cut that thing off or something like that. But yeah, her her
yeah, or
pulling,
even just have like the rope pull off his shoe
yeah,
because she's holding on to him, but to pull him out onto the boat and then take off the shoe, I was like, oh. I mean, I guess we are probably splitting hairs when we are complaining so much in detail about that, and we've already said so much about the movie.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, you at least make some of these things believable, just so that it doesn't annoy the viewer more than the movie already has. I guess.
Hmm.
But yeah, that was
Yeah.
my take.
But I, which was the other bit? I think in that scene. So obviously the end is that they somehow, I don't know what tale they spin to the cops to make them believe that this is what's happened, right? Like, uh, because you see Todd's face is not there. Even Allegra's face is basically shot in. So
Yeah.
it's like, even as a normal cop, you'd be wondering like, what the hell just happened here? It's not like why would they have beaten you, kidnapped you, and then shot each other off?
Yeah, I mean, the two of them were uh, uh, pretty much, except for DNA testing, I guess they were uh, mutilated in some way. Plus, Pete's body is at the bottom of that river or lake or whatever. So, yeah, it was quite intriguing how they kind of made it a believable story. And I'm guessing that's why they've omitted that part and cut straight to how it became a Hollywood movie in the end.
Yeah, I like
Uh,
the fact that even this movie was just like distributed digitally, just like the movie in the movie itself.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Which, I mean, I guess that makes sense. And I think also it's probably like a slight dig at those movies that go to the theater. It almost felt like, hey, our movies are good too,
Yeah.
kind of thing. But yeah, I think probably I found that as the funniest joke in the movie, where probably they're hinting at something. I was like, okay.
Yeah, they're like, oh yeah, streaming does well too, like a lot of people stream nowadays. I was like, yeah, man,
Yeah,
I'm streaming your movie. God forbid. And thankfully it's not that I didn't
yeah,
have to pay for it. But yeah, it ends also in that entire, I think they've omitted a lot of things for it to be like, I think it became more of a proper John Wick type action movie at the end,
yeah,
right? Uh, it made them feel, I think, a lot more hero-y than they it probably were.
yeah,
Though I think at the end of the day, I think both Dan and Lisa managed to actually do a lot of damage
mm, yeah. I
because
guess, yeah, how they got there was completely different, but yeah,
yeah,
maybe that's how they told it to the cops.
yeah, because I mean Dan was a bumbling idiot to start off with. Lisa didn't really look like the person who would, you know, be so, I guess, brutal, maybe.
Yeah,
Especially until she got the shotgun or whatever. Even then, she was a little scared of
yeah,
how it was. But towards the end, Dan shooting Allegra, you having that billiard ball in his sock and whacking it toward, like, it seemed a little out of character, but I guess situations demand different
yeah.
stuff from you. So, yeah. Would
And I think also, I don't know when was it. I think it was probably before they go to the cabin or after. I can't remember, but maybe before. But they do show like some. Ah, yeah. I think maybe it was when Dan was visiting his dad, and they show on the TV like these escaped convicts and stuff on
huh.
the news or something like that way. So I'm guessing they kind of had that this thing like, if we don't do anything, we will probably not make it out of this alive, and so maybe the fight or flight kind of instinct was what pushed them to do that. Like, even Lisa stabbing that guy, like, for me, I would think like, you stab him once, and if he doesn't react, you're like, oh shit, get the hell out of here. But she had the presence of mind to bring the whole rack of knives and like boom, boom, boom. So that
Yeah.
was like, yeah,
But, but dude, I don't understand how he managed to shoot Allegra when his hand had basically got like a massive hole. I don't know how he managed to hold on to that gun
yeah,
when he could barely do that with both his hands intact at the start. Uh,
like one hand was had a hole in it, the other one was missing fingers, and oh, okay,
yeah.
damn.
Dude, that entire lawnmower scene was so mad. I didn't think they were actually going to chop off fingers like that, but like, yeah,
Yeah.
I think,
Some of the goriness was pretty insane. Like even Allegra's foot when they show it, and you're like, oh
yeah.
man.
Oh man, it was.
I literally had to preemptively reduce the volume, knowing that she was going to douse her foot in alcohol. So I was like, oh, okay, I can't handle an extra loud scream, so I reduced the volume to uh, less audible.
Yeah.
This thing, and I was like, okay,
Yeah, I mean, I guess that maybe would appeal to a lot of people, the amount of goriness that's there. And I guess for
yeah,
dark comedies, it makes sense to be like, I guess, gory and like have those elements of like really being over the top.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for me, it was mostly the story. I as much as I like the sort of over the top goriness and the violence that we got to see. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, at the end of the story was just like it started off well, and then just like maybe Dan's movie took a nosedive. Um,
Yeah. It almost felt like three movies being sutured together. It felt like the start was a something serious, the middle was like a bumbling comedy kind of thing, and then it became like a slasher sort of film. And you're like, what's going on?
yeah,
So it didn't really mesh well, I would think.
yeah, I would say the first two can mesh well, where you're kind of setting up something serious, but it also has that sort of, like you said, satire or a little
Yeah,
comical element to it. But slasher, and especially the kind of slasher that they ended up being, was just a bit too.
yeah,
Yeah, it felt, like you have those like cabin in the wood kind of stories where, a group of teenagers go. That's the kind of slasher it kind of at the end became.
yeah. And again, I know I'm splitting hairs here, but like they went like all in with that goriness, and then when the father goes to says, I'm going to eat your nose, it's like he took like a small bite of the tip, and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah, I think Lisa bites Todd's ear off, right? I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So I was like, whoa. And then he does say, yeah. And then I saw that scene. I was like, wait, what happened to his nose? His nose is like his nose is fine.
Yeah,
What bite did you take? But yeah,
yeah,
it was. Yeah, and there's nothing on. Okay, I guess yeah, there was that news article about the father, but like post killing of Pete and everything, there was like no remorse about the father from Dan or Lisa's side, especially when the police come. There's like
yeah.
nothing about it. There's like it just felt like the dad was actually collateral damage, or like it just felt like they're part of the gang.
And the dumbest part was the dad has killed Todd, shot Allegra in the foot, so she's kind of like immobilized, and the gun was just lying there on the floor. Like, couldn't one of them pick it up and like shoot Pete and save the father? I was like, really? Both of y'all just choose to run? I was
Yeah,
like, very obedient kids, I guess, at the end of it.
yeah. I
Dad said
mean,
run, so
that
I
yeah,
ran.
and that too after years of not listening to dad and being a disappointment to dad. Now is the best time to listen to him. Just when he's going to just about die, they're like, oh, this is what
Yeah.
he always wanted. So let's just give that to him. I think that's why they were so obedient.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. So I think apart from that, I was I was actually kind of interested in. So up until the end, I didn't know how that bag of rocks was going to be used. For a long time, I
Mm.
just felt like they were going to go in the boat, and because of the rocks, it was going to sink. Right? But I was like, no, but that can't be it, because like how many rocks do you need to sink a
Yeah.
like a jet.
And the boat wouldn't have been there because the rocks were already in it.
Yeah, actually, to be fair, now that I was talking, I was like, yeah, but it wouldn't have been there in the pier then if he had kept those rocks, unless because it
Yeah.
had been like tied up to the pier, and they were like, okay, that kept it
Yeah.
afloat. So I was like, oh, so when Lisa goes into the boat, I was like, oh, even Pete's gonna run, they're gonna go in the boat, and then Lisa's gonna jump out and he's gonna sink with the boat. I'm like, but But then I was like, oh no, that does not make sense. And also stupid to think that, because at the start, Dan himself says that I'm gonna like tie those rocks to the body so that it sinks,
Yeah,
right? So it's clearly
yeah.
not a boat related issue with the rocks. But still in my head, I was like, oh, there are enough rocks to sink this.
Well, well, to be fair, there was so much of eccentric thing that happened in the movie, so I wouldn't blame you for thinking something like that would happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
So yeah, but like again, man, like the start was so good. Like especially when they show that the knife wasn't there, I was
yeah,
like, because I think Lisa's there in the kitchen. I was like, she's taken the knife and hidden it somewhere, and I'm like, oh,
yeah.
that's gonna like really play out and in a lot of like back and forth. Uh, but yeah, it also to add to it, like normally I don't like these movies that go like 3 hours before, 4 hours before. I think here it would have worked well, because I wish like maybe the first third of the movie would have been like
Mm.
3 hours before, 4 hours before, showing them how they were setting things up, maybe, or like somewhere
Yeah,
in the middle, maybe they were like, when they got to this point where they were actually trying to kill each other, they're like, okay, now this shows what's happened in the past, like them trying to set this
yeah,
up. And I wish we had a little more of that, and yeah, whole load less of whatever we got later on, because um, and I love the fact that these guys, these three people have run away from the police station, but the police do not check the closest house that there is or was or whatever. Like they've been chasing these three convicts.
yeah. And it's weird, right? Like you when they are running to the cabin, you hear like dogs and stuff like that way. So they have sniffer dogs and stuff like that way to pick their trail. They've driven around in cars, so that means they are still leaving like their scent and trail and stuff like that way around. So like, what the hell were those dogs doing? And like, I think they've only spent like the night over there before these two show up. So it wasn't like a whole lot of time they spent there. So you're telling me like the cops have cleared that area
Yeah.
and moved on, and they've moved on so far that even once gunshots have been fired in that house, nobody bothers to come and check.
No.
It made no sense.
It could have been nice if, like, maybe when Dan and Lisa were arriving at the apartment, they could hear like a lot of cop cars and cop noises around.
Yeah,
'Cause that'd be cool, because you're like then setting things up. Like, okay, they would have been like, what's happening? Why are there cop cars here? And then you kind of think about why, and that could have fit. That would have been a nice piece in the jigsaw puzzle. But
yeah.
yeah, it,
And so the couple don't find any cops on the way to the place or while at the place. Henry also comes, doesn't find anything. But apparently there's a manhunt going on. And I'm like, what the hell?
yeah. No wonder a lot of these convicts keep escaping. It's just like, I wonder how many of them have actually spent time in that house and like gone away nicely, like
Yeah,
spent the night there and then moved. Uh,
yeah,
but
that was crazy.
but yeah, it was. I, I don't know, man. Like with these kind of movies, like you see the potential, and that makes it even more frustrating. Like I wish a
Yeah,
movie was just outright bad, because then I'm like, there's the
exactly.
potential.
The worst is it gets your hopes up and then you're like, oh shit. No.
Yeah. But if it started bad and you know it was going to be bad and everything was going to be bad, yeah, then it makes it a lot more easier to like rate as well. Like going into
Yeah.
this, I never know how to rate it, because do I rate it on the fact that, yeah, I mean, there was promise and yes, I could see the potential there. And I mean, its acting was all right. It's just the story was really bad.
Yeah.
But story is a big thing, right? Story is the main thing, I would say as well. So, uh, yeah, when these kind of movies happen, it's just like the 1.5 feels like it shouldn't be, but it is deserved. One and a
Yeah. And
half.
I think even though it was like a 1.5 thing, I think these were one of the few where maybe because again the start kind of got your creative juices flowing and you're like, oh, this could happen, that could happen. It made the movie feel a lot longer because I felt like it kept disappointing you with the turns it took, and you're like, oh man.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, oh, when Dan goes into the washroom, I was like, he's gonna do something else. But he just comes out and whacks him with the sock. I was like,
Yeah,
but they could have been, I thought they were doing something else. Like, oh man, what the hell's happening? Why is it being
yeah,
so lame? And yeah, I think this is one of the movies where I feel like if we had Naeem, he would have basically come up with like, guys, I know there have been like three episodes or three movies we would have done. Like the first
yeah.
movie is
Make
like
it a trilogy.
make it a trilogy, and this is how I would have done, or we would have. I thought it should have been done, and he would have set up this entire. He would have
Yeah,
basically brought a trilogy out of
rewritten it
nothing.
himself, I guess.
Yeah, but unfortunately, yeah, well, uh, he's not what we said he was at the start. He's just not in the
Yeah,
country at the moment, so not there for this podcast. He will be there for the next one.
yeah,
Yeah, funnily enough, he's with his wife, so we don't know how that actually goes.
yeah. We might have to call to check in on either of them.
Correct, yeah. But I'm sure there's no harm in time going on. Uh,
Yeah,
all right. So, with that being said, I think we've covered all that we could with this movie, which is Over Your Dead Body. And we will. I mean, don't forget to hit the like button. Let us know what you thought of it if you did actually watch this movie. It was actually when we came to it. I think there were other movies that we initially planned to do for this review. It's just that the premise was very exciting that I was like, I think we should maybe get to doing this. But yeah, in hindsight, maybe we could have just gone with our some of the other alternatives. Though one of it I did watch, and I, yeah, I don't think we were missing out on much. I think our ratings have probably been the same. But yeah, with that being said, do let us know what your thoughts were on this movie. Don't forget to hit the like button, share with friends and family, follow us on YouTube, follow us on Instagram as well. We're doing a lot of these games on a daily basis. So we're going to be putting one game out per day, and you can participate. Let us know your thoughts, give us your answers in the comments, and we will catch you all on our next episode. Until then, you stay safe. Bye bye.